Good morning po.
Morning po.
Morning po.
Good morning po.
So today we are, naiintindihan naman ako, I just have a cold, kaya medyo nasal lang yung voice ko, but can you understand me clearly?
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes po, ma'am. Yes po.
Okay. So very quickly lang, we're going to have the rationalization of some of the items in your quizzes. Okay, so that would be from 1 to 3. Okay, quiz 1 to 3. So let's start. These are just some. Okay. First, let's start with the question sclare. So, alam naman natin kung anong ibig sabihin, no, ng prefix na sclare. So, what does it mean? Is it beyond? Sorry, hindi nagta-transfer. Beyond, hard, all, large, or long?
Hard po.
Okay, correct. So, sclare, okay, it means hard. Okay? So, next, let's move on to association. Pero hindi nagmo-move. Yan, okay. So, here, no, reticulocyte, we're talking about the immature RBC. So, A, mature cell, B, precursor of WBC. So, you know what the answer is. So, this is an immature cell and this is a precursor of RBC. Therefore, the answer is D. Okay, as in dog. So, not associated pareho. Okay, next. You have large central pallor in RBC. So I've already mentioned about the central pallor. It should be 1/3 of the diameter of the RBC. So if it is larger, indirectly proportional siya sa hemoglobin. Right? So kung malaki, therefore the hemoglobin is small. Right? So therefore, okay, between polycythemia and anemia, so meaning to say, mababa ang hemoglobin. So that's associated to anemia. Okay, anemia. Okay, so that's only letter B. Next, okay, the disadvantage of these anticoagulants for CBC is that it causes dilution to blood and usually it results to false blank of the cell count. So that is sodium citrate. That's why if you're going to count RBC, if you're going to look at the morphology of the RBC, this should not be used. No? So you have sodium citrate. And since madadilute siya, ibig sabihin madadagdagan yung fluid. So if you're going to get an aliquot or a sample, that would be producing low cell count. So, mas mabababa kasi madadilute. So, parang, di ba, pagka nagtitimpla kayo ng juice, di ba, pag maraming tubig, matabang. So, just the same. So, pag na-dilute, bababa yung cell count. Okay? Next, another association, allergic reaction. So, alam naman natin na associated ang allergic reaction sa eosinophils. But, eosinophils na mataas o mababa?
Mataas.
Increase or decrease?
Increase.
Dapat mataas. Okay. So the correct answer here is letter D, as in dog. So hindi naman associated ang allergic reaction sa mga neutrophils. Sa eosinophils, yun nga lang, dapat mataas. Dapat eosinophilia. Okay? Next. So ito, most abundant cell in the bone marrow. So, nabanggit na natin to kasi nung diniscuss ko sa inyo yung differential. Right? So, nalaman natin na yung pinakamarami sa bone marrow are your neutrophils. So, letter B. Pero pag tinanong kung ano yung pinakamarami sa peripheral blood, ano yung pinakamarami sa peripheral blood? Still, neutrophil. Okay? Pero, when asked about the entire body, the answer is monocyte or macrophage. Okay? I will repeat, bone marrow, most abundant, and then peripheral blood, the answer is neutrophil. But if we're pertaining to the entire body, the answer should be monocyte or macrophage. Okay? Next, MCH, okay, mean cell hemoglobin. Wait lang. Ayaw na naman mag-transfer. Okay. So, what is MCH? Amount of central pallor or the mass of hemoglobin?
Mass of hemoglobin.
MCH? Okay, that's correct, no? That's the mass of hemoglobin. Okay, so letter B. Next, Sant. That is a prefix. Sant. X-A-N-T. That is a Greek suffix which means kulay yon?
Yellow.
Correct. That's why when you say the sample is xanthochromic, no, it has a yellowish color because of the bilirubin. Anyway, matututunan nyo naman yan when you talk about, when you have your CC2, clinical chemistry 2. Okay, anyway, nabanggit din naman siguro yan sa CC1. Okay, so proceed tayo with association ulit, no? Phagocytic cell. Okay, phagocytic cell. Yeah, hindi gumagalaw. Ayaw niya gumalaw. Saglit, hintayin natin, no? O, yan na. Phagocytic cell. Monocyte, neutrophil. What is the answer? A, B, C, or D?
C po.
Okay, that's correct. Pareho yung phagocytic cell. Okay, monocytes, no, and neutrophil. So, kapag ka ang monocyte nasa peripheral blood path, they also help the neutrophil, no, in engulfing foreign bodies. Now, when it already transfers to tissues, we call them macrophage. So, same po ang function nila. Okay? Ang mga eosinophil at saka basophil, they may also serve as phagocytes. Okay? Yung mga granulocytes natin. Eosinophils, okay, and basophils may also serve as phagocytic cell, but rarely. Okay? So, commonly, itong dalawa na to, monocyte and neutrophils, they are the ones who are involved. Okay? Next, drug therapy. Okay? Drug therapy. Neutropenia, okay, monocytopenia. Answer? Drug therapy, ano daw yung naapektuhan dito ng drug therapy? Neutropenia, monocytopenia.
Neutropenia po.
Answer?
Neutropenia.
Okay. So, guys, tandaan ninyo, lahat ng cells, no, could probably be affected by decreased blood cell count. Okay? Including your monocytes. Okay? Pwede rin po siyang mag-decrease, no? So, the correct answer here is, pero dun sa handout na binigay ko sa inyo, neutropenia lang, no? Tama? Okay. So, here, ang nilagay ko sa bright space is letter A. Okay? So, if that is your answer, so that would be true. Okay? That would be correct. Letter A. Okay? But, you have to remember, lahat po ng cells could probably be affected by drug therapy. Okay? So, lahat po could probably be affected by drug therapy, including monocytes. Okay? Next, ito po. Sino yung may folded na nucleus? Lympho, mono, eo, baso. Correct? That's your monocyte. Sino naman yung may round? Round?
Lymphocyte po.
Lymphocyte po. Segmented, eosinophil, basophil. Right? Okay, next. Another association. Hematophoesis, okay, is a continuous process and it is controlled by several factors. So both of these are true, right? Paulit-ulit lang hematophoesis from the renewal to proliferation to differentiation, maturation, and then ulit-ulit tayo. Okay? And then these are controlled by growth factors, okay, and also your cytokines, interleukins. So ang tawag natin sa mga factors na yan, we call them regulators. In general, regulators. Okay? Growth factor, cytokines, interleukin. Okay, those are examples of these factors. Okay, so C po ang sagot dito. Okay, letter C. Okay, next, PCV. Okay, so alam naman natin, packed cell volume yan. So that is only associated to letter A. Right? Packed cell volume or hematocrit. So that's a parameter of RBC. Okay, So, may dalawang question dito. Una, ano daw yung cell na hindi nagde-develop ng granulation sa cytoplasm? What do you call that cell that never developed any granulation ever sa lineage? That is?
Erythrocyte po.
Correct. Your erythrocytes. Okay. Next, true or false naman tong nasa ilalim. A hematopoietic stem cell is capable of replenishment, okay, and directed differentiation into all required cell lineage. So there are several concepts that are here, no, that are mentioned sa isang sentence na to. Ano yon? Una, pag sinabi nating replenishment, ibig sabihin, that's another word for renewal. So it's true, right? Next, nagdi-differentiate ba siya? Yes, it's true. Diba? From the pluripotent, pwede tayong mag-produce ng myeloid. So nag-differentiate, right? Into all required cell lineage. So the word here is all and then required. So mula ba sa pluripotent, nagiging napupunta ba siya sa erythro, napupunta ba siya sa development ng platelet, napupunta ba siya sa development ng mga granulocytes, agranulocytes, monocytes? The correct answer is yes. Diba? Required. Ibig sabihin, depende sa growth factor na available. So, the answer here, if this is true or false, the answer is true. Okay? So, true. So, guys, kapag nagsasagot kayo ng question, hihimayin nyo yung question. Okay? Hihimayin nyo yung question. And also, huwag magmamadali pag magsasagot, especially this coming Wednesday. Correct? Wednesday yung exam ninyo. So, pag nagsasagot, unti-untiin lang, no? Dahan-dahan lang, but also please mind of your time. Okay? Huwag mamadaliin. Okay, next. Association ulit tayo. Myeloid cell lineage. So, lahat naman under ng myeloid except the lymphocytes. Okay? Lahat under ng myeloid except the lymphocytes, including your B cell and your T cell. So, myeloid includes the granulocytes, neutro, eo, baso, including your platelets, including your red cells. So, the answer here is letter C. True. Letter C, okay? Both neutrophils and platelets. Okay. Orthochromic normoblast. Okay. Sino naman ang tinutukoy natin sa orthochromic normoblast? Wait lang. Hindi siya lumilipat. Ano yung tinutukoy nating cell? Ano yung other term, no? UK term para sa orthochromic normoblast? What is orthochromic normoblast? Other term?
Metarubicyte po.
Your? Wala, dapat memorize yun na yan ngayon pa lang. That is your meta-rubricite. Okay, meta-rubricite. Ayaw nang lumipat. Orthochromic normoblast. Saglit lang. Ano kayang problema? Bakit? Ayan. Yan. Orthochromic normoblast, so we're referring to the metarubricite. So, A, capable of self-renewal. Letter B, it's a nucleated RBC. Ang nagre-renew, stem cell lang. Okay? Stem cell lang po nagre-renew. Si pluripotent, si multipotent. Naintindihan? Ngayon, nucleated only until the metarubricite. So, the correct answer is letter D. Okay? At ito rin ang pinakahuling cell na capable ng anong process? Proliferation. Siya lang po, siya na yung huling-huling cell. Okay? Maturational stage na capable ng proliferation, ng mitosis. Naintindihan? Siya na yung pinakahuling cell maturational stage na nagde-divide. Reticulocyte, hindi na po nagde-divide. Same with your erythrocyte. Okay? So next, sino naman ang may reddish na cytoplasm? Okay, ibig sabihin ng reddish cytoplasm, may presence na ng, anong hinihintay natin? Hemoglobin. Okay, so question, alin daw dito ang may reddish cytoplasm? Okay, tatandaan ninyo ang heme, okay, or the hemoglobin, nagsisimula na ang production niyan even sa normoblast pa lang. Okay? Rubriblast pa lang. May protein synthesis na pero wala pang manifestation ng presence ng hemoglobin until prorubricite. Wala pang indication, okay, ng presence. Pero, ulitin ko lang, nagsisimula na. Okay, yung protein synthesis, dun pa lang sa rubriblast. Saan unang nakikita ang hemoglobin? Saan unang nakikita ang presence ng hemoglobin? Anong maturational stage?
Rubricite po.
Rubricite. Correct. Okay? Rubricite. So, ibig sabihin, doon ka na makakakita ng acidophilic. Diba? Anong kulay ng acidophilic? Kulay pula. So, baka naman, bago-baguhin lang natin yung term na yan, nawawala na agad. Pag sinabi nating reddish, pag sinabi nating acidophilic, kulay pula. Pag sinabi mong kulay pula na yan, excuse me lang. Okay. Pag sinabi na natin pula yan, ibig sabihin may presence na ng hemoglobin, no? So that is rubricite. Okay? Until meron ng metarubricite, until reticulocyte, until of course full hemoglobinization that occurs in your erythrocyte. Okay? Next, hemoglobin F. Saan ba natin nakikita ang hemoglobin F? That is in the myeloid phase. But you have to remember, mataas ang predominant ang hemoglobin F natin, okay, rather than your hemoglobin A in hepatic. Pero meron pa rin tayong hemoglobin F in your myeloid. Okay? Pero ano naman yung makikita natin sa mesoblastic? Yung mga embryonic Portland, Gower 1, and Gower 2. So, ito po, makikita natin sa mesoblastic. Okay? Next, RBC shape. Okay? Phosphorylation of spectrin, okay, and chelation of calcium. Okay? RBC shape. Okay? Is it affected by phosphorylation of the spectrin? Letter B, affected by chelation of calcium. Ano pong sagot? Anong sinagot niya dito? Anong sinagot niyo? Hello? Anong sinagot niyo dito? Oh, ang shape ay affected malamang ng spectrin. Right? Okay, spectrin po. Kasi si spectrin, kung ito ang phosphobilipid layer natin, okay, nandito si spectrin. Right? So, kung maaapektuhan, no, kung halimbawa, wala tayong spectrin, wala tayong na-produce na spectrin, hindi natin ma-maintain yung shape. Kasi si spectrin, this is part of your peripheral protein. And ano bang function ng peripheral protein natin? Hindi ba? Cytoskeleton. Kung cytoskeleton siya, edi nagme-maintain siya ng shape. Mamang calcium. Ang calcium, it affects the RBC deformability, but not the shape. Deformability, not the shape. Kasi, di ba, kapag ka marami ang na-sequester na calcium sa loob ng cell, di ba nagiging rigid? At pag naging rigid, hindi na siya deformable. So, for this question, ang sagot po is letter A. May tanong po ba dito? Clarification? Yes, Miss Ruiz?
Ma'am, kasi po nung discussion po, sinabi niyo po na yung calcium din po is nakakapagpaano po ng abnormal shape ng RBC. Ano pong parang component po ng calcium yung nakakapagpa-abnormal shape po?
Okay. Yan ito. Oo nga, nasabi ko pala yun. Sequestration ng calcium, yun yung sinabi ko. Jewel? Sequestration?
Sabi niyo lang po nun, ma'am, ano po, dagdag nga po sa RBC deformability, yung calcium po is nagpapa-abnormal din po ng shape ng RBC.
Okay. Ganito. Titignan ko kung ano yung sinagot natin dito, ha? Ang hirap ng may sagot. Ay, may sakit. Wait lang. Relation. Anong quiz number to, guys?
Sa quiz 3 po, ma'am.
So, anong section mo? Tinanong ko to sa inyo. Saglit lang. Kasi magkakaiba ang quiz ninyo eh. Number 4. Wala natin dito sa 4. Tuesday. Tignan ko anong sinagot natin. Relation. Yeah. Okay. Ang tamang sagot dito, tama, is letter C. C ang sinagot natin sa bright space. Tama. Kasi, tama yon. Kasi ang calcium, okay, thank you. Ang calcium, once it is sequestered inside the RBC membrane, so this becomes rigid, and of course, it can affect also, no? Pati yung shape. Tama. Nagiging abnormal din yung shape. Okay? So, yan. Tama. Tama. Letter C yan. Okay? Thank you. Okay. So, tama po yun. Letter C ang sagot dito. Okay? Sige, next tayo. Okay, modified true or false. So, your HMP, prevent oxidation of molecules. It can also reduce methemoglobin once it is formed or it forms. Anong sagot dito? A, B, C, or D? The answer is letter A lang po. Okay, letter A lang. Okay? Kasi once na na-produce na ang methemoglobin, hindi po kaya yang i-reduce ng HMP. Mas effective mag-reduce, once na na-produce na si methemoglobin, hindi na po kaya yan na bawasan ng HMP. Hindi effective si HMP sa reduction ng methemoglobin. Ang nagre-reduce nito ay si methemoglobin reductase pathway. Right? So the correct answer here is letter A only. Okay? Dahil doon sa, bakit nape-prevent ni HMP yung oxidation ng molecules? Anong po napoproduce ba niya? Ano napoproduce niya? Nag-generate ito ng NAD, pH, and the NAD pH is responsible for reducing GSH or your glutathione. Diba? Glutathione is an antioxidant. So, it prevents oxidation. So, basically, this is by the production of peroxide. So, nagpo-produce si HMP ng peroxide. At yan ang responsible also, no, for the prevention of the oxidation of the molecules. But mas potent yung GSH. Okay, your glutathione or reduced glutathione. Okay, next, liver disease. Decreased zeta potential decreases cholesterol in RBC membrane. So kung natatandaan niyo, ang zeta potential po is sialic acid. So this is responsible. Okay, and a sialic acid is a membrane protein. Right? Next, cholesterol. Cholesterol is also being synthesized in the liver. Okay, cholesterol is being also synthesized, okay, in the liver. So, kapag ka nagkaroon ng alteration, okay, problema sa liver, okay, maa-alter ang cholesterol level, maa-alter din pati yung mga proteins. Right? So, kapag may liver disease affected, pati yung zeta potential, pati rin yung ating cholesterol. Okay? So, ganito po. Kapag affected si liver disease, nagkakaroon ng alteration. Hindi lang sa protein, kundi rin pati sa cholesterol. Okay? And that would also affect yung RBC structure. Bakit maapektuhan yung RBC structure? Kasi kung naaalala ninyo, anong components ng RBC structure? Meron tayong lipids, meron tayong proteins, and meron din tayong carbohydrate. E saan ba nanggagaling yung mga lipids and proteins na yan? Yung iba dyan nanggagaling sa plasma natin. So kung galing yun sa plasma, okay, saan nanggagaling yung mga lipids and proteins sa plasma natin? Galing po yan sa liver. So kung apektado yung origin ng mga yan, affected din. Pati yung mga pupuntahan yung lipids and proteins na yan, which is isa doon ang RBC natin. So, affected din yan. Okay? So, the correct answer here, sa liver disease, okay, hindi decrease. Okay? Pero ito ay dapat increase. Okay? Dapat increase, hindi decrease. Okay? So, though affected din siya, ano bang sinagot natin dito? Cholesterol. Okay, tama. So, though this one, no, the correct answer is letter A. Specifically, ang liver disease, ini-increase niya. Okay. Ang liver kasi, guys, okay, this is important for the catabolism of lipid. So, kung familiar kayo sa tawag dito, organic or biochem ninyo, diniscuss to sa inyo na ang catabolism ng lipid ay nangyayari sa liver. Ngayon, kung sira ang liver, walang magkakatabolize, no, sa lipid natin. So, walang magbe-breakdown ng lipids natin. So, anong nangyayari? Magkakaroon tayo ng build-up. Okay? So, what happened is that nagkakaroon ng build-up ng lipid. So, ibig sabihin, pag nag-build up yung lipid sa plasma natin, so, mag-i-increase din ang ratio ng cholesterol natin sa RBC membrane. Okay, so nabanggit ko, I think yun sa discussion, kapag nag-increase ang amount ng cholesterol, di ba kailangan natin i-maintain? Ilang percent lang ang cholesterol? Only a total of 40%. Hindi ba? So, kailangan po, ma-maintain lang natin siya sa 40 kasi ano ba ang binibigay niyang effect sa RBC membrane natin? Tensile strength. So, ayaw natin na mas marami ang cholesterol kumpara sa phospholipid. Kasi, tumitigas yung membrane. Diba? Kailangan ma-maintain lang natin yung ating cholesterol at that level. Kasi kung magkakaroon ng alteration sa ratio ng phospholipid at saka ng cholesterol, eh hindi na po magiging deformable yung ating membrane. Okay? Naintindihan po ba yon? So the correct answer here is only letter A. Bakit naman letter A? Kasi sa liver naman, kung catabolism, ito naman ay synthesis. Alam nyo naman yan. Of protein. Okay? So, dahil doon, okay, kapag nagkaroon ng liver disease, bumababa naman, no, yung protein natin. So, pag bumaba yung protein, okay, bumababa din pati yung, or nababawasan din pati yung protein natin sa RBC. Okay? At dahil doon, bumababa yung sialic acid. Pag bumaba yung amount ng sialic acid, bumababa yung zeta potential. So, ito, build up ng lipid. So, nag-i-increase ang chole in RBC membrane. Okay? So, ang tamang sagot lang dito is letter A. So, sa association, dapat marunong tayong mag-analyze. Okay? May tanong po ba dito? Wala? Okay. Next tayo. Modified, true or false? High intracellular calcium causes cell to become less deformable. This also promotes abnormal shape of RBC. So, kakabanggit lang natin ito kanina. The correct answer is letter C. Bakit less deformable? Kasi it makes your RBC membrane rigid. Okay? Next. Association. Alin dito ang included sa erythroblastic island? Kung naaalala ninyo, sa bone marrow natin, okay, saan nga ulit nakalocate ang mga RBC? They are distributed.
Spread out.
Correct. It's spread out, no? It is distributed throughout the bone marrow. How can you locate them? So, malolocate mo sila, hanapin mo ang central macrophages or mga simple macrophage. Okay. Sa central macrophage, nakakabit yung mga immature RBCs natin. Ang tawag mo dyan is erythroblastic island. Okay, you call it erythroblastic island. So, central macrophage plus immature RBCs. Ngayon, kapag ka naging non-nucleated na, so, pag wala ng nucleus, nagde-detach na yan. Nagiging reticulocyte. Di ba ito yung unang stage na walang nucleus. So, once it extrudes the nucleus, it is detached from the central macrophage. Bakit? Kasi lalapit na yan sa sinus. Okay? Si reticulocyte, lalapit na yan sa sinus. Bakit lalapit na yan sa sinus? Kasi pupunta na yan sa central
Artery.
Correct. And once it's already in the central artery, makakapunta na yan sa peripheral blood. Right? Peripheral blood. So, makakapunta na siya sa peripheral circulation. That is why, ang reticulocyte, meron kang makikita sa bone marrow, meron kang makikita sa peripheral blood. Right? So, sa bone marrow, gaano katagal ang maturation bago maging mature RBC? Diba? 2.5 days. Pero pag nandun na siya sa peripheral blood, 1 day na lang. Hindi ba? So, yun. No? So, ibig kong sabihin, kung nasa erythroblastic island, ang tamang sagot lang po dyan ay si rubricite. Okay, so from rubriblast to metarubricite, naka-attach pa sila sa central macrophage. Pag wala ng nucleus, umaalis na sa central macrophage, pumupunta na sila sa sinus, papunta sa central artery, papunta sa peripheral blood. Okay, next tayo, EPO production. Okay, EPO production, nangyayari lang po ito sa liver at saka sa kidney. Wala po sa spleen, okay, wala rin sa bone marrow. So, letter D tayo dito, as in dog. Okay? Next, red blood cell deformability. Band 5, band 3. Deformability. Band 5, band 3. Band? Alin dyan? This is a peripheral. This is a transmembrane. Right? Transmembrane. So, ibig sabihin, kung deformability ang pag-uusapan, edi peripheral tayo. Okay? Peripheral. Kasi ang mga transmembrane protein, important lang yan for passage ng ions, signaling receptor, but they're not involved in the deformability. Okay? Next, presence of oxidized molecules. shift to methemoglobin reductase, shift to hexose monophosphate shunt. Answer, oxidize. So, malamang. Letter C. B, hexose monophosphate para ma-prevent yung further oxidation. Letter A, para ma-prevent yung methemoglobin reductase para naman mabawasan yung methemoglobin. Okay? Gets po? Okay. Next, H and P. Okay, hexose monophosphate shunt, production of NADPH. Yes, aerobic process. Aerobic ba ang H and P? Is it aerobic? Yes, it is.
Yes
Right?
po.
Okay, so C po ang sagot dito. Okay, next. Phospholipid bilayer, barrier, destruction. Okay, phospholipid bilayer on RBC membrane. Barrier, destruction. So kung natatandaan ninyo, ang bilipid layer, meron niyang polar at saka non-polar group. Right? So ito yung important para sa sealer. Kasi sineseparate niya yung water sa labas at water sa loob. So ginagamit natin siyang barrier. Okay. Ano naman ang association niya sa destruction? Naalala niyo si phosphatidylserine? Anong ginagawa ni phosphatidylserine? Di ba nag-flip siya sa labas? Saan ba ang serine? Sa loob o sa labas? Si PS, nasa loob. Di ba? Kapag ka-aging na yung RBC, ano nangyayari? Nag-flip siya sa labas. Bakit siya nag-flip sa labas? Kasi ina-attract niya ang alin?
Splenic
macrophage
po.
Correct. Si splenic macrophage. Okay? Para masira siya at para ma-remove siya from the circulation. So therefore, phospholipid bilayer, okay, is also associated to destruction. Okay. Next, continuous supply and movement. Supply movement. Okay, continuous supply, movement, and the function of RBC, liver, spleen. So, ang responsible po sa movement, okay, at function ng RBC, okay, anong organ? Ano yung nagpapump?
Heart po.
Heart. So, wala namang heart dyan, right? So, letter D po ito. Okay? Letter D. Wala namang heart dyan. Okay, next. Ito, modified true or false, lipids and proteins located on the cytoplasmic side of RBC are different from those in the membrane interior or from those in the plasma side of the cell. This controls the selective passage of molecules through the membrane. So, naglipat. Okay. Anong sagot natin dito? Letter C po. Magkaiba ang component sa labas at sa loob. Paulit-ulit kong sinabi yan sa inyo during the discussion. So, magkaiba ang component ng lipids and proteins sa labas at sa loob ng bilipid layer. When you say labas, sa plasma side. Pag sinabi natin sa loob, that's the cytoplasmic side. At dahil doon, dahil sa asymmetric distribution, di ba? Sabi natin, asymmetric distribution. Dahil dyan, na-control natin. Question, ano yung gumagamit ng energy para makapasok sa loob? Ano yung gumagamit ng energy? Mga cations. Okay? So, this needs energy. Yung mga hindi kailangan ng energy, mga anions, glucose, kailangan ba ng energy? Hindi. Okay? Dire-diretso pong pumapasok ang glucose sa loob. Hindi yan kailangan ng energy dahil kailangan niya yan. Okay? Important yan para makapag-generate siya ng ATP. So, kakailanganin pa ba ng ATP para makapasok? Hindi na po. Okay? So, example pa, pag sinabi natin mga anions, sila chloride, sila bicarbonate, no? Mga cation, sila sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, yun. In the expense of energy. Water, syempre hindi na rin, okay? Water, hindi po kailangan ng energy for it to pass through the membrane. Okay, next. Increase EMP activity. Okay? Increase EMP activity. Ibig sabihin po, increase ang glycolysis. Right? So, tuwing kailan ba nag-increase ang glycolysis? Remember, anong requirement nito na pH? 7.0. Above. 7.0. Kung natatandaan ninyo, si hexokinase at saka si phosphofructokinase, yun yung requirement. Kailangan mas mataas sa 7 para mag-start ang EMP, para mag-start ang glycolysis. So, this is true. Decrease oxygen tension. That's correct, di ba? Kapag bumababa ang oxygen natin, okay, kailangan natin mag-produce ng energy. Bakit? Saan ba kakailanganin ng energy? Kakailanganin mo ang energy para sa ano ba tawag dito? Metabolism. Okay? Halimbawa, kakailanganin mo siya para sa maintenance ng sodium-potassium pump, calcium-magnesium pump, ma-maintain yung shape. So, that would be also true. So, both of these are associated. Okay po? Okay. Next tayo, modify true or false pa rin. As cholesterol concentration rises, the RBC membrane gains strength. That's correct, right? Kasi associated to sa tensile strength, but loses elasticity. That's also correct, right? This alter the surface area to volume ratio. Okay, kasama ba yun? Ulit, as cholesterol concentration rises, the RBC membrane gains strength. So that's true. Yung pangalawa, true ba yan or false? This alter the surface area to volume ratio. Is it true?
False po.
So the correct answer is only letter A. Okay? Letter A. Hindi naman naaapektuhan. Tumitigas lang siya, nagiging rigid lang siya. Pero hindi affected yung volume, hindi rin affected yung surface area. Naintindihan? Okay. So, yun lang for some. Mabilis lang yun. Okay, for the questions. Ngayon, what I would like to focus right now, okay, especially dun sa mga hindi po na, okay, alam nyo na, okay, na-discussan ng ibang topics. Meron ba kayong gustong i-clarify na topic? Ma-review na topic? Gusto ko lang ulitin ulit yung oxygen dissociation curve. Yes, Miss Bills? Letter A. A. Okay. Meron ba kayong gustong i-clarify na mga topic? Ha? Eto, hindi ko lang ito na-discuss sa isang section kasi mababait sila. Oxygen dissociation curve. Okay? Ba't parang wala akong kausap? Ulitin ko ba to o okay na kayong lahat? Again, sorry.
Ma'am, excuse lang po.
Yes.
Yung dun po sa 3.5 po kasi, sabi niyo po kasi mag-upload po kayo ng record about po sa hematology procedure po. Yes.
Naka-upload na. Naka-upload na siya. Na-check mo na. It's already uploaded. Umali ako ng in-uploadan na ano. O tama naman, hematology lecture materials. Naka-upload na siya. Paki-check na lang ulit, no? Okay na? What about, meron pa kayong gustong i-clarify? Ha? Yes, Ms. Lucinario?
Ma'am, pwede po sa hemoglobin synthesis po.
Okay, pwede naman. Unahin ko lang to kasi hindi ko to na-discuss dun sa previous na, ano bang section yun? I think yung pinakahuli ata yun. Okay, sige po. Discuss lang natin to very quickly, oxygen, hemoglobin, or oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve. Okay, now when you say oxygen, hemoglobin dissociation curve, that is the relationship between the oxygen, okay, and then when you say oxygen partial pressure, percent saturation, di ba kung naaalala ninyo, ang hemoglobin natin, may 4 yan na globin chain. So, may 4 din yan na heme. Di ba? So, possibly is that may 4 din na molecules ng oxygen na nag-a-attach dyan. So, hindi natin nabibilang yon isa-isa. How do we measure it? We measure it by saturation. So, pag sinabi mong more saturated, okay. Pag sinabi mong more saturated, ibig sabihin, mas maraming naka-attach. Okay? Pag sinabi mong less saturated, ibig sabihin, konti yung naka-attach na oxygen. Okay? Then, that is affected also by partial pressure. Siyempre, kung mataas ang oxygen na meron, mataas ang pressure. Kapag less ang oxygen, ibig sabihin, less din ang pressure. Kaya po, ang oxygen, saturation, at saka partial pressure, they are directly proportional. Kung tumataas ang saturation, tumataas din ang pressure. Right? Kung bumababa ang saturation, bumababa din ang pressure. Naintindihan ako? Naintindihan? Okay. So, ibig sabihin guys, as you can see here, halimbawa ito, tsaka itong point na to. This is the normal curve. This is the left, and this is the right. Now, kapag ito ang saturation natin, okay, ito ang pressure natin. Anong napansin natin? Okay, kapag shift to the, ito muna tayo ha. Kapag normal ang curve natin, okay, so ito yan, yung kulay green, okay, kung yan ang pagbabasihan natin ng curve, no, ng pressure at saka ng saturation, tignan ang left at tignan ang right. Okay, this is the left, this is the right. Okay? So, kapag shift to the right, okay, mas mataas, same na saturation. Mababang saturation. Iko-compare natin si left versus right. At 20, okay, percent saturation. Kasi percent ang saturation natin. Dito naman is measured by mmHg. Okay? So, compare natin si left versus right. Ang basis natin is si normal curve. Okay? At 20% saturation, your left curve, okay, has lower partial pressure compared to right. Okay? Bakit ma'am? Titingnan natin to ha. Ito yung basis natin, 20. Asaan ang partial pressure ng right natin? Asaan ang partial pressure ng left natin? Okay? So, lesser, ito ang zero natin, kung naaalala nyo pa sa graph. Okay? So, this is between 10, siguro. This is 30. So, kung pag-uusapan natin, ang saturation, pare-pareho. Normal curve, left, right. Pare-parehong nasa 20% saturation. Iko-compare mo yung partial pressure nila, si right, mas mataas ang partial pressure kumpara sa left. Okay. Ngayon, tatandaan ninyo, kapag mataas, okay, relationships ang mga pinag-uusapan natin dito ha. Okay. Ang affinity, pag-usapan natin ang affinity, pag-usapan natin ang release. Oxygen to ha. Pag tumataas ang affinity, bumababa ang release. Okay? Tatandaan nyo, sa affinity, kapag mataas ang saturation, mataas din ang affinity. So, ibig sabihin, mababa ang release. Gets yun? Kasi ganito, try to imagine this. Kapag the more na tumataas ang saturation, okay, ibig sabihin, mas marami ang oxygen na naka-attach. Okay? Pag mataas ang saturation, mas maraming oxygen na naka-attach. So, intindihin niyo yung word na greed. So, the more na mas maraming naka-attach sa kanya, the more na ayaw niyang i-let go yung oxygen. Naintindihan yon? The more na ayaw niyang i-let go yung oxygen. So, it's greed. So, the more na dumadami yung oxygen na kumakapit, the more na tumataas yung affinity. Okay po? Okay. Now, tandaan po, ito yung normal na nasa tissue. Between 40 to 60. Okay? Ito yung saturation natin sa tissue. Ito naman ang saturation natin sa lungs. Okay. So, bakit ma'am mas mataas ang saturation sa lungs? Kasi dyan na-oxygenate ang mga blood mga blood cells natin, your RBCs, right? So, probably that would be from 80 to 100. Okay, ang saturation natin dyan, umaabot ng 100% ang saturation pag dumadaan sa lungs. Dito naman tayo sa tissue. Okay, bakit ito lang ang partial pressure natin at ito lang ang hemoglobin saturation natin? Kasi sa tissues, ayaw mo na masyadong makapit, ayaw mo rin ng masyadong mababa yung affinity. Okay? Kasi pag kailangan, dapat readily available. Okay? Readily available yung oxygen mo. Naintindihan? So, ito yung partial pressure natin. Ito yung hemoglobin saturation natin sa tissues. Okay po? Ito, low ang saturation natin dito at 20. Kaya nga, di ba, meron tayong 20, okay, between 20 to 60 and more than 60. Ulit, ito, mababa ang saturation. So, pag mababa ang saturation, mababa ang affinity. Correct? Ito naman, sa tissues makikita, ito naman makikita sa lungs. Kasi pag more than 60 na siya, approaching na tayo sa 80 to 100% saturation. So, saan makikita yan? Sa lungs. You understand? Naiintindihan ng relationship ng partial pressure sa affinity? Naiintindihan ng association ng saturation sa affinity? May tanong po ba? Okay. So, ngayon, ito ang normal curve. Normally, physiologically, nandiyan ang oxygen dissociation curve natin. Pag may mga nangyayaring mga conditions, maaaring mag-shift to the left or maaaring mag-shift to the right. Gumagawa ng paraan ng katawan natin, okay, for it to shift to normal curve. You get it? So from the normal curve, if there's condition, let's say for example, hyperventilation, hypoventilation, let's say fever, let's say liver diseases, etc., probability is there could either be shift to the left or shift to the right. So we need to identify if that is shift to the left or that is shift to the right. Why? Because we want to normalize it. Okay? We want to know how to normalize it. You understand? So, what are the conditions? What are the factors that could influence the normal oxygen dissociation curve? So, that is either to the left or to the right. So, you have increased affinity. Okay, this is shift to the left. Okay, and then shift to the right, decrease affinity. Naintindihan? Okay. Huwag niyong i-memorize yung dalawa. Ang technique dito, i-memorize nyo lang yung isa. Okay? Kasi pag na-memorize nyo na yung isa, the other way is always the opposite. Okay? The other condition, that would be the opposite. So, halimbawa, shift to the left. Increase affinity. So you know that it's increase affinity, so decrease ang release natin doon. Okay, what are the conditions that would affect it? So, decrease body temperature, okay, no 2,3-DPG, okay, decrease carbon dioxide, as well as increase the blood pH, or you have alkaline. Okay, so what are those factors? So, alam naman, nabanggit ko na to kanina. Okay, next tayo. So, what are the factors that affects the hemoglobin affinity? So, body temperature. So, in the body temperature, as I've mentioned, okay, example muna tayo, no? Example. Fever. Okay, fever. What happens to the temperature kapag may fever tayo? You have low temperature. Okay, so what will happen to your oxygen dissociation curve? Ano mangyayari sa oxygen dissociation curve? Right or left? Right or left?
Left.
That would be shift to the left. Diba? Decrease body temperature, shift to the left. Okay. So, you have increase affinity. Then decrease oxygen release. Okay? So, this is shift to the left. So, ano ba? Fever, ano ba kayo? Ulit. Fever, di ba mataas ang body temp? Di ba? So, baliktad. Decrease oxygen. Okay lang, burahin ko ha. Mataas na body temp. Decrease ang affinity. Increase ang oxygen release. Okay? So, bakit ayaw natin na mag-decrease ang oxygen affinity at increase ang oxygen release? Kasi there could be possibility na mauubos lahat ng oxygen na nasa what do you call this? Nasa oxygen natin. So, bababa ang saturation. So, we want to normalize this. That's why, di ba, nilolower natin yung body temperature. Pag nag-lower yung body temperature, ma-achieve natin, hanggang ma-achieve natin yung normal na body temp. So, babalik na yan sa normal curve. So, this is shift to the, pag mataas ang body temp, shift to the right. So, syempre, kabaliktaran lang, guys, yung shift to the left. Okay, kapag malamig, no, mababa yung body temp, so kabaliktaran lang po. Nangyayari, okay, nag-i-increase ang oxygen affinity, nagdi-decrease naman yung release. Okay? So, tatandaan ninyo, ang temperature ay inversely proportional, okay, to the affinity. Inversely proportional to affinity. Oxygen affinity. Clear? Okay. Next. Blood pH. Okay. Ang Bohr effect po ay nangyayari kapag maraming hydrogen ions. Okay? The Bohr effect occurs when the oxygenated hemoglobin binds with hydrogen ions. Okay, question. Kailan nag-i-increase ang hydrogen ions? Acidic? Ang hydrogen ions. Acidic or alkaline?
Acidic.
Okay, let me give you an example. Let's say renal failure. Okay, what happens in renal failure in your hydrogen ions is that remember, kidney is important for the reuptake of ions. So, syempre, your kidney will filter out your plasma, and then some of the ions should be reuptake or should be reabsorbed back to the circulation. But if you have renal failure, you don't have the capability to reabsorb those ions. Okay? So, what happens is that also wala ring capability na mag-filter. So, nangyayari po, nagbi-build up ngayon yung mga hydrogen ions. So, increase ang hydrogen ions. Okay. So, kapag nag-increase ang hydrogen ions, ano po ang nangyayari? Nagdi-decrease ang blood pH natin. So, nagiging acidic. Right? So, pag bumaba ang blood pH natin, nagkakaroon ng decrease oxygen affinity, increase ang oxygen release. So this is shift to the right or left? Decrease oxygen affinity, increase release. Right or left?
Right.
That is shift to the right. Okay, that is shift to the right. So, paano natin yan ino-normalize? Okay, dahil may excess tayo, kailangan natin kailangan natin yan ibalik sa normal curve. Paano? Mangyayari ang Bohr effect. Ano ang Bohr effect? Di ba may excess ka na ions. So, this will bind with deoxygenated. Kailangan walang oxygen yan deoxygenated hemoglobin. Okay? So, that is what you call the Bohr effect. Kapag nag-bind na yan, magdi-decrease na ngayon, okay, to normal yung hydrogen ions natin. So, that will decrease and back to normal yung hydrogen ions natin. So, magno-normalize na rin pati yung pH ng blood natin. And that would result to normal curve. Okay? That would result to normal curve. You understand? Bohr effect. Clear? So, Bohr effect is the relationship between the pH, okay, as well as the affinity. Kasi nga naman, pag bumaba ang pH, ino-normalize yan by the Bohr effect. How? That is by the binding of the excess hydrogen ions with your deoxygenated hemoglobin. You understand? Okay. So, with that, okay, ang nangyayari po, nag-i-increase na ang affinity and also nagdi-decrease na rin yung release. Okay? Next tayo, 2,3-DPG. So, alam naman natin what's the effect of 2,3-DPG, right? If there is 2,3-DPG, what happens to the oxygen? It will be released, right? Increase ang oxygen release. Kapag ka naman walang 2,3-DPG, okay, decrease ang oxygen release. So, kung merong 2,3-DPG, then that is shift to the left or right? Kapag increase ang release, pag may 2,3-DPG, shift to the right. Pag wala naman, left. Okay? Pag wala, left. Next, let's talk about your carbon dioxide. Guys, ang carbon dioxide naman, this is occur, or the Haldane effect, no? This occurs when the oxygenated hemoglobin binds with carbon dioxide. A very good example of this is hypoventilation. Ventilation. What happens in hypoventilation is that you have increased carbon dioxide. Okay? Sa katawan natin, increase ang carbon dioxide. So, again, when you have increased carbon dioxide, what happens to the oxygen affinity? It is decreased. Right? Oxygen affinity. And increase naman ang oxygen release. Correct? Shift to the right, shift to the left. Increase carbon dioxide. Shift to the
Right.
right. Okay, correct. Now, how will you normalize that? You will normalize that by binding with the oxygenated hemoglobin. So, syempre, pag nag-bind na yan, bababa na ngayon yung carbon dioxide up to normal level. And then, magno-normal na ngayon yung carbon dioxide mo, babalik tayo ngayon sa normal curve. Okay po? So, that is the Haldane effect. So, that is the relationship between the carbon dioxide naman and the affinity. So, mamaya ko na ano yan. Okay? Clear? What about fetal hemoglobin and abnormal hemoglobin? If adult, okay, have these abnormal hemoglobin. Ma'am, why is hemoglobin F abnormal in adults? Okay? The hemoglobin F should only be in minimal amount. Right? Should only be less than it should only be less than about 1% in adult. Remember, yung ating proportion, it should only be less than 1%. Now, when it is present in adult in increased amount, okay, yung hemoglobin F has lesser capacity to transport oxygen. Okay? Lesser capacity to transport oxygen. Same with your abnormal hemoglobin. Okay? Abnormal hemoglobin doesn't have oxygen carrying capacity. Example, carboxy, methemoglobin, sulfhemoglobin, they don't have the ability to transport your hemoglobin. Transport your oxygen. Okay po? So, what happens now? So, ang nangyayari po, okay, ano nangyayari sa release? Kung wala pong oxygen, ano nangyayari sa release?
Decrease po.
Magdi-decrease ang release natin, right? And because of that, shift to the right, shift to the left.
Right po, ma'am.
Decrease ang release. Shift to the right, shift to the left.
Left.
Po, ma'am.
Okay. Shift to the left. Guys, ganito. Ang technique lang dito, tignan yung mabuti yung release. Tsaka nyo tignan yung affinity. Okay? Sometimes, hindi nata-target yung affinity or it's not about the affinity. Sometimes, it's about the release. So, minsan, tignan nyo rin muna agad yung release bago nyo i-justify kung yan ay shift to the right or shift to the left. Okay. Another example. Baliktarin naman natin. Hyperventilation. Ano naman na ang nawawala sa atin pag nag-hyperventilate tayo? Carbon dioxide. Right? Bumababa yung carbon dioxide natin kasi nag-hyperventilate tayo. So, na-exhale natin ng na-exhale ang carbon dioxide. So, if that happens, what will be the result to your pH? So, carbon dioxide is lost. There will be increased blood pH. Right? And if that happens, increase ang blood pH natin, okay, what happened? Magkakaroon ng increase oxygen affinity, then decrease oxygen release. Right or left?
Left po,
That
ma'am.
would be correct. Left po yan. Okay? And then, how do you normalize that? So, you have to release hydrogen ions. Okay? You need to release hydrogen ions, free hydrogen ions, because you have alkaline pH. You need to reduce the pH. And how will you do that? Okay? Release free hydrogen ions. Okay? So when that happens, bababa na ngayon yung pH up to normal, and that would also normalize your curve. Okay? That would also normalize your curve. Clear? Okay. May tanong kayo with the hemoglobin affinity? Meron po ba? Okay. Tapos guys, ito yung variants ng hemoglobin which I've already discussed, no? Tandaan lang, marami pang variants ng hemoglobin. Okay? Marami pang variants ng hemoglobin. So we're going to talk about that in the midterm. But for now, pag-usapan muna natin yung tatlo. We have carboxy, we have sulf, and then we have met. So familiar naman na kayo kay methemoglobin, right? Anong nangyari dyan? Na-oxidize yung kanyang iron. So from ferrous, naging ferric. What happens naman sa sulf hemoglobin? Ang nag-bind ay sul 4 or hydrogen sulfide. Dito naman, instead of oxygen, ang nag-bind ay carbon monoxide. You have to remember, this is irreversible. Okay? Sulf hemoglobin is irreversible. This is reversible. This is reversible. What do you mean when you say irreversible? Even though you supplemented the patient with oxygen, hindi na po mawawala, hindi na po matatanggal, no? Yung hydrogen sulfide natin with oxygen. Okay? So that is irreversible. We're in carboxy, when the hemoglobin binds with carbon monoxide, which, by the way, have higher affinity. 200 times greater ang affinity, no, ng carboxy, of our carbon monoxide compared to oxygen. So when, let's say, for example, there's presence of oxygen, there's presence of carbon dioxide, the hemoglobin will choose carbon monoxide because it has greater affinity compared to oxygen. And when that happens, carboxy hemoglobin do not have the capacity to transport the oxygen. Okay, so it will not bind anymore with your oxygen because your carbon monoxide already is bound to your hemoglobin. Okay, so these are the levels. So normally 1 to 3%, and then for those who are smokers, average of 5% per day are produced, and then 20 to 30%, the patient will experience nausea, vomiting, and then 40%, that's already when the patient will have loss of consciousness, and even death could also arise. Okay, and then sulf hemoglobin, as I've mentioned, it binds or it reacts with hydrogen sulfide. It's irreversible. Okay, it's irreversible. And then we have the methemoglobin. So you know that 1 to 3% per day are being produced, right? Now, 10% cyanosis, more than 60%, that would lead to hypoxia, and that could even lead to death. Okay, so we remember infants are more susceptible in the production of the methemoglobin. Okay, why? Because majority of the hemoglobin which they possess is hemoglobin F. Okay, these abnormal hemoglobin, hemoglobin S, this will be discussed to you in the midterms. The hemoglobin S, hemoglobin D, hemoglobin E, hemoglobin C, hemoglobin ED, EF, those other abnormal variants will be discussed in the midterms. Again, these three are considered abnormal as well. Okay, abnormal variants. Okay, so what else? Ano nga yun, Mr. Scenario? Heme synthesis? Am I correct?
Yes po.
May tanong pa kayo? Do you have any question with the oxygen dissociation curve? Okay.
Wala na po.
Now, let's proceed to the heme synthesis. So, first is the condensation of succinyl-CoA and glycine to produce delta amino livolinic acid. Now, please take note, this is happening in the mitochondria. So anything that's on the right side is happening in the mitochondria, and those at the left side are happening in the cytoplasm. Okay, now, first is the condensation of your succinyl-CoA with glycine. The product is delta amino livolinic acid. Now, it has an unstable intermediate, which is known as your adipic acid. But don't worry, adipic acid, this is not used in the process. Okay, so intermediate, unstable, intermediate lang siya. So what we use is the delta amino livolinic acid. Now, you have to remember there are two important factors, okay, here in the condensation. First is the presence of the of the ALA synthase, and the other one is the presence of your vitamin B6. So vitamin B6 is your pyridoxal phosphate, okay, which is serving as cofactor in the process of condensation. So meaning to say, if we don't have vitamin B6, ALA synthase would not be functional as well. Okay? Again, if you don't have a cofactor, okay, ALA synthase will not function as well, and we will not be having condensation. Another factor is the EPO. Okay, EPO. The EPO also influences the action of your ALA synthase. So why? Because if you don't have EPO, no heme synthesis, no hemoglobin synthesis, no maturation of RBC. Okay? So EPO also affects your ALA synthase. Also affects the condensation of succinyl-CoA and glycine to delta amino livolinic acid. Now, you will be using two molecules, okay, of delta amino livolinic acid. So that will be converted to porphobilinogen, specifically 4 molecules of monopyrrole, okay, porphobilinogen. Okay, monopyrrole porphobilinogen. By the way, this is occurring already in the cytoplasm of the cell. You understand? This is already happening in the cytoplasm of the cell. So this is also known as PBG, porphobilinogen. So 2 molecules of ALA or delta amino livolinic acid will be condensed to form monopyrrole porphobilinogen. 4 molecules. That is responsible na enzyme dyan is ALA dehydrase. Okay, that's catalyzed by the enzyme ALA dehydrase. Now, the 4 molecules PBG, they will condense to form urothionein. porphyrinogen, there are two isomers, 1 and 3. Okay, 1 and 3. So the isomer that will be used in the heme synthesis is the isomer 3. Okay, the isomer 3. That is the cyclic tetrapyrrole. Tetrapyrrole, double R. Okay, cyclic tetrapyrrole. The type 3 isomer will then be converted to coproporphyrinogen 3. Okay? So yun, ginamit nating isomer. And the coproporphyrinogen 3 will either result to the protoporphyrin that will be going to the mitochondria and other porphyrinogen that will stay in the cytoplasm. But majority of them will become protoporphyrin, which in turn, mitochondria na tayo ulit, which in turn will be bound to your iron, specifically ferrous. No? Fe2+. Okay? To form heme with heme synthase as the enzyme. So that's the heme synthesis. Any question? You have to remember, the rate of porphyrin synthesis should be equal to the rate of globin synthesis. Bakit, ma'am, hindi iron? Because we don't synthesize iron. We don't synthesize iron, right? Because iron are only recycled in our body. So most of it will come from the saan karamihan ng gagaling ang iron?
Senescent RBC po ba?
And when you say senescent RBC, those are? Ano mga senescent RBC?
Aging.
Okay.
Aging RBC.
Correct. Aging, old RBC, aged RBC. You understand? Okay. So, ang globin, kung ang heme nangyayari sa mitochondria at saka cytoplasm, saan naman ang gagaling ang globin? Other than liver, of course, it will come pagka-synthesis na sa loob ng cell, ribosomes. Okay? Ribosomes. And some of it will also be synthesized by the liver. Okay? May tanong pa po? Yes, Miss Bendo?
Ma'am, clarification lang po. Is it heme synthase or heme synthetase po?
May mga book, okay, may mga book, they call it heme synthase. May mga book naman, like Rodak, it's heme synthetase, but it's the same.
Okay po. Thank you po.
Meron pang iba, ang tawag ferrochelatase synthase. Meron pang mga ganong book, no? But it is just the same. It pertains to the heme synthetase or the heme synthase. Meron pa pong tanong? Meron pa kayong gusto i-clarify bago kayo mag-exam sa Wednesday? Meron pa? So, ready na kayo on Wednesday. Wednesday nga ba? Yes?
Ma'am, pwede rin po ba pa-discuss nung sa cycle po nung sa RBC destruction if kung pwede lang po.
Destruction? Wait lang. Okay, intra or extra? Extra muna. Okay.
Yes po.
So, RBC, of course, when it becomes aged, it will be undergoing RBC destruction. Okay? So, what happens if it is destroyed by splenic macrophages? Okay, because of this, because of the macrophage in the spleen, no, the components of your RBC will disassemble. Okay, because of the engulfing of the phagocytosis of the RBC, components will disassemble. Okay, so what are those important components? So remember, for RBC, the main component, of course, is the hemoglobin. Correct? Hemoglobin has two important parts, globin and heme. And of course, your heme is made up of iron as well as the protoporphyrin, as we mentioned earlier doon sa heme synthesis. Now, let's first talk about the globin. Globin is protein kasi these are made up of amino acids. No? Polypeptide yan. How many polypeptides? How many? Sa isang hemoglobin, how many polypeptides? There are?
4.
Okay. 4 polypeptides. Now, that 4 polypeptides will then be going to the liver for it to be catabolized. Okay? So, it will be broken down. The polypeptide, so if this is the long polypeptide chain, it will be broken down into single amino acid. Okay? Now, what happened to the amino acid? It will go back to the amino acid pool. And where is that amino acid pool? In our peripheral blood. Okay? So, most of it are recycled back. Next, okay na tayo with globin. What about iron? So, as you've mentioned earlier, iron are commonly recycled, going back into the bone marrow or cells needing iron. So, majority of it will be transported by transferrin. This is a protein, a transport protein to your bone marrow. So, why bone marrow? Because in the bone marrow, there are a lot of immature erythroblasts, which are needing your iron for growth. Specifically, majority of iron are transported to rubriblasts. Some are transported, of course, to prorubricite, rubricite, metarubricite, until reticulocyte. Okay? Next. After that, of course, iron is now recycled. So, we'll now go to protoporphyrin. Okay, what happens in protoporphyrin? So, remember, it's a chiral ring. So, if you recall the structure, so it is a ring, and it will be broken down in its methane bridges. So, if you still recall, the methane bridges is the double bond CH single bond, right? So, that's the reason why it formed a ring. So, when it's broken down, the ring will open. So, when that ring opens, there will be carbon dioxide that will be released from the ring. Now, that carbon dioxide will be expelled into our system through the respiratory tract in the form of carbon monoxide. So what will now happen to the ring itself? The ring is also known as your tetrapyrrole. Okay, remember tetrapyrrole. Okay, remember kanina you have tetrapyrrole, cyclic tetrapyrrole. So that is your unconjugated bilirubin. So this is already in the plasma. Okay, so you have unconjugated bilirubin that will be transported by albumin to where? To liver. Why? Because it will be conjugated. So after the conjugation, you will have conjugated bilirubin, which is also known as your glucuronide. Now, there are several fates, F-A-T-E-S, for glucuronide. One, it could go to your bile. It will be excreted, okay, into the bile in your pancreas, or it will go to your GIT, okay, in the intestine. So what happens in the gastrointestinal tract or GUT? The bacterial or the bacteria, the normal flora, will convert it to what? Stercobilin. And the stercobilin will be released in the feces. Okay, next. Another fate of this glucuronide or conjugated bilirubin, it will go to the plasma. Okay? So, when it goes to the plasma, you have here another albumin because it's in the plasma. Albumin is one of the major proteins in the plasma. So, makikita na naman siya ni albumin. What will happen? That conjugated bilirubin will be again transported by the available albumin to kidney. So once it's already in the kidney, it will be converted to urobilinogen. Some urobilinogen will be reabsorbed back to the circulation. Some of it will be excreted in the urine as urobilinogen. So basically, in your extravascular destruction of RBC, majority of it are reabsorbed, reuptake, or recycled back into the circulation, and some of it are released either in the urine or in the feces. In the feces, stercobilin. In the urine, you have urobilinogen. Okay? So next tayo, intravascular. So for intravascular, here, we don't have phagocytes. Okay? We don't have phagocytes because this is occurring in the plasma. This is intravascular, right? Intravascular hemolysis. This is not by the aid of your spleen. Okay. But don't worry, 10% lang naman to. So if you're familiar with the alpha and beta dimer, hindi niya po ile-let go si heme. Okay? Heme won't be disassembled from the dimers. Okay? So all the components, except for the dimers, okay, will be released from your RBC. So this will be transported by haptoglobin to your liver, forming haptoglobin hemoglobin complex. Now, what happens in the liver is that it will be catabolized. And the products of the catabolism will go back to the peripheral blood. Okay? So, included po doon sa nakakatabolize ay si haptoglobin. So, haptoglobin will be consumed. So, you have now decreased amount of haptoglobin. What if there are excess? Okay? Alpha beta dimer, what will happen to them? So, it will go to the kidney because it's in the plasma, right? Remember, urine is the ultrafiltrate of plasma. So, your plasma will be filtered by your kidney. So, we don't have no choice. We don't have choice, right? So, it will be filtered in the kidney. But don't worry, your kidney has the capacity, okay, to reabsorb. But there's only a limit. What's the limit? 5
grams
per day. Okay. What if it reaches more than 5 grams of hemoglobin in that same day? What happened to the excess? The excess, number 2, will be excreted in urine, either as hemoglobin or hemosiderin or both. You can see either depending on the extent of RBC hemolysis or RBC destruction. So you can see hemoglobin or you can see hemosiderin or both in the urine. Now, what happens if there is another excess? Okay, there's a lot. What happens to that hemoglobin? That hemoglobin will be converted to methemoglobin. Now, the heme A, it will bind with hemopexin. Hemopexin heme complex. Or letter B, it will bind with albumin. Okay, forming metheme albumin. Okay, so let's proceed to hemopexine heme complex. So when this binds, this will be cleared by a protein generally known as low density lipoprotein receptor related protein. This will be removed from the circulation. So once there is more excess of heme, no, from the methemoglobin, so your albumin will bind to it, forming the metheme albumin. Once the hemopexin is available, the albumin will let go of the heme to bind your heme with your hemopexin. And again, same process, it will be cleared by your LDL receptor-related proteins. Okay? So basically, as much as possible, we don't want your hemoglobin or the components of your hemoglobin to be excreted out of our system. As much as possible, it should be recycled back to the circulation, whether intra or extravascular. Okay? So that's it. Do you have any other question? Any other clarification? Any other clarification? Okay. So coverage na tayo ng exam. Okay, coverage ng exam. Intro to Hema. Hematophoesis. Of course, that would include your erythropoiesis. Then we have the RBC structure. And destruction. Hemoglobin. And the hematologic procedures. This is a recorded discussion which is already uploaded in your files. Okay? In your Google Drive. Meron pa ba kayong tanong? May clarification pa ba kayo bago ko kayo i-dismiss ngayong araw na to?